Hello, my name is Katie, and I want to make this video really fast because it's starting to get kind of dark outside. But I just wanted to go kind of talk a little bit about how I got into programming and how I taught myself how to code. I got interested in programming when I was in my senior year in college. I was actually in college for public administration. I didn't go to school for computer science or anything technical like that. My goal was to become a lawyer. I was actually a paralegal for a civil litigation law firm and then an immigration law firm, and then for 6 months after I graduated college I was working in a personal injury law firm. I was basically unhappy with my job, and I just did not want to be in the legal field. I didn't want to continue in it. I was just really unhappy. I looked into other career options and I met somebody that was going to Dev Bootcamp, and I talked to them a little bit about web development, and I kind of knew what a web developer was, but I just didn't know exactly what a web developer was at the same time. I started looking into it a little bit more and looking at YouTube videos, and I noticed I really did like programming. I started doing some tutorials with Ruby, and Ruby's how I got started. And I really liked it, and so I started kind of learning HTML and CSS, going the front end route like a lot of people do. This was all in my spare time when I was not doing classes, which was really hard during my senior year, so I didn't have that much programming like tutorials or anything going on while I was in my senior year. But I had a lot more time to look at it after I graduated college. After I graduated, I got into a job working in personal injury as a paralegal, and I did that because I needed income, and I had just moved back from where I was living to where I am now, and I really did not like that job. It was just like the end point. Every second that I wasn't working, I was just practicing coding HTML and CSS and some JavaScript. At that point I was learning a little bit from Codecademy, a lot of YouTube tutorials, and I actually purchased a Skill Crush course, the front-end web development one, and I decided to quit, and there were a lot of reasons that led up to that. The job was just, I wasn't happy. I wanted to learn how to code, so I left my job and I learned programming full-time. I did consider going to a couple boot camps. I looked at the ones, I'm in the LA kind of area, but I live a little bit outside of LA at the same time. So a lot of the boot camps would have been really hard for me to actually go to and commute. It would have probably been about an hour to an hour and a half commute every day. So that just wasn't really going to be an option for me. But I learned on my own using all the tutorials 24/7. Well, when I was awake, you know, like not 24/7. I was having a little trouble learning JavaScript, so I signed up for an adult ed class, web development class, and it was supposed to cover HTML, CSS, JavaScript, Photoshop, Flash. It was gonna cover Flash. Like, I was like, I can't believe this is covering Flash, but this is all like my really option was at that time, and I really wanted to get into web development. And eventually it was gonna also go into SQL and PHP. I was also attending meetups, particularly one meetup that was in my area, and I was meeting with other developers and talking to them. On my first time there, and actually quite a few times after my first time going to the meetups, I just had no idea what anybody was talking about. Like, it was beyond me, but I stuck through it and I just kept going and I kept talking to people. People were really friendly. They asked me, you know, how's your learning going? Have you found a job or anything like that? And then eventually there was a time I went while I was going to the adult ed course that I was taking, and I met a couple people that wanted to interview me. And I ended up only interviewing with one, and I ended up taking an internship position with them, and I got super lucky with that. They just were kind of gonna train me from the bottom up, and I got to work a lot with the senior developers there. There were 2 other developers, and then there was my boss who was also a developer. So I got to work with all of them pretty closely, and I learned a lot faster on the internship than I did on my own. So I was doing the internship probably for about 6 months, and at about 6 months is when I got offered a job. And there's a lot of things, kind of different things that happened in between that time, and I'll probably talk a little bit more in other videos. But basically that's how I got started with programming, and kind of in a nutshell. So I hope this is helpful for somebody who is looking into getting into programming or web development or whatever. I know that when I was trying to become a web developer, that I was looking for other people's experiences to see how they did it. Not that my experience is going to be everybody's experience, but just hearing somebody's story about how they came from a completely different field into the web development field, it encouraged me to keep going.